So I want to make sure that I keep everything at an even temperature, warm temperature, about body temperature. Again, what we have is a slide warming stage right here. We want to, and we can set the temperature on this stage, make sure we keep all of our slides now in the field. Occasionally, I've used heating pads, stuff like anything to keep those slides warm. You want them at about body temperature. Because especially if it's very cold, you pick up a cold glass slide, you put the semen on there, and you're going to get a lot of artifacts. You'll get a lot of real tightly coiled tails. Some other way that semen's that's called cold shock, and you're going to kill more semen. So again, very, very important is to handling that semen. And again, we talked about collecting that semen. We want to keep it warm, keep your hand around it. Again, I think we did talk a little bit about you can put a water jacket around it if it's real cold in the winter, a warm water jacket. But you want to keep that semen about body temperature. Okay, once you collect your semen, again, if you're doing it in the country, if you're examining bulls in the country, some veterinarians will go ahead and stain the slide in the country and then take them back to the clinic and read them. The other thing you can do sometimes is take some of that semen, put it in some phosphate buffered formalin. It'll kill the sperm cells, but the morphology will be good, and you can go back and stain them once you get back to the office and read them that way. But the point, or if there's just a few bulls, you could certainly stain them in the country. But again, so many times that's used as an excuse to skip the staining process. As okay, we're doing them in the country, so that's hard to do. There are ways to get around that. So again, it's very important how the semen's handled to start out with. Again, as we do the motility, again, this is a little bit of phosphate buffered saline. So generally what I do is, and what I've done is put a little in this syringe. I want to put about a drop on that slide. Okay.
Go ahead and put the...
Okay, and then what I've done is put some semen in this slide. Again, I want to put about an equal amount of semen on there. All right, and then I can take a little wood applicator, and then I can go ahead and then I can mix that up good, and then I want to take a cover slip and I want to put on that. And that's what I examined under the microscope to look at gross motility and rate of forward movement. Okay? Now, if the semen was extremely concentrated, I might want to put just a little bit more phosphate buffered saline. All I'm trying to do is get those cells enough diluted out that I can see how they move forward. Phosphate buffered saline, and veterinarians would have that. They purchase that, but I've just got it in a small container. But we use that to dilute the semen, so that if the semen is real concentrated, sometimes it's more difficult. In other words, you've got a lot of concentration, so it's hard to, you can see movement, but it's hard to see is that progressive forward movement. So that's the reason we're diluting this out. Okay? Now, when we stain for morphology, we use a dye. I get this from the Society for Therogenology. They're actually an organization that I belong to that kind of set the standards for this in veterinary medicine. So again, I use their stain. You can use other stains. There's other commercial stains available. You know, it used to be very popular, and you still could use it, a good grade of India ink, but you just need something where you can actually get a good stain on the semen. So again, basically what I want to do is take a very, very, very small drop of that semen and put on a slide, and then I take a very, very, and usually, okay, so I take a very small drop of semen, okay, and then a very, very, very small drop of stain. Okay, now what a lot of people do is they want to take a slide and just kind of mix those together. Okay, now again, we're not, and then just take a little wooden stirring rod or whatever, and what you're trying to do there in staining those things is you're making thicker and thinner places in the stain. In other words, that way you're going to get a better look at several different fields. okay? Then once you get that stained, you need to let it dry well, okay? Then once it dries, and this is what it will look like after it dries, then usually we look at this under oil because we're looking at it at a higher magnification. So we put just a little drop of oil, microscope oil on there, immersion oil, and then of course set it for that, you know, and then look at it under the microscope. Now, some veterinarians, and this scope is equipped with a phase contrast. Some veterinarians will skip the staining part and look at it, just looking at each individual on phase. I kind of like the stain because it gives me a little bit, you know, I can tell things a little bit better looking at stain. But again, just if your veterinarian is not staining, he's looking at morphology, he's most likely using a phase contrast scope. And again, that's each individual preference. But my preference still is to stain the organism.